Hey guys, this is God of Politics. Welcome to a brand new video, but before we get started this video, please like this video and subscribe to the channel. Also follow me on Twitter and join the Discord. Those are both linked down in the description. But in today's video, I will be doing my governor elections predictions. Now, I did my Senate election prediction a couple days ago. That was my first since February, and this, I believe, is my first governor election prediction since November of 2021, so it's been quite a while since I've done one of these prediction videos. A lot of things have changed since then. We've had a lot of primaries, we have a lot of upcoming primaries, we have a lot of decent candidates running for both sides, and it should make these races very interesting. Predicting governor elections is much more difficult than predicting Senate elections, so let's get right into it. Now, starting off with the safe Republican states, of course, we have 8 that are not up for the Republicans, 6 that are not up for the Democrats. But starting with the Republican states, the safe Republican states, that includes Idaho, Wyoming, South Dakota, Nebraska. It includes Oklahoma. It includes Alaska. I'm probably going to include Texas in this as well. Of course, Greg Abbott won by a safe margin in 2018, which was a blue wave year. And of course, not much attention was paid to that race, but Beto O'Rourke is not really, a good candidate. At least not anymore. Sure, he can get a lot of fundraising, a lot of things like that. Currently, he's ahead by 7 in the polls. I think he wins probably by around 9 to 10 to 11 percentage points. Right now, I'm going to put it as a safe margin. I wouldn't be surprised if it comes a little bit below that, but for now, I am going to put it as a safe Republican state. Arkansas, I'm going to put as safe Republican. Iowa, I won't put Iowa as safe, but it is pretty close to it. Tennessee is safe, Alabama is safe, South Carolina, and I'm going to put Ohio as safe as well. I do think Ohio will go by more than 10 percentage points. Mike DeWine is a pretty decent candidate, and I think that he'll have the ability to win, not by, Kasich 2014 margins, but he was able to win by 5 points in 2018. Of course, Kasich won by a lot in 2014, which was a Republican wave year, so I do think that Mike DeWine probably does win by a safe margin here. I'm going to put Vermont as a safe Republican state. Phil Scott announced that he is running again, so I am putting that race as safe Republican. Now, out of all of these, I'm most in doubt about Texas and Ohio. Maybe Ohio dips below 10 percentage points. Texas could also dip below 10 percentage points as well. But looking on the Democratic side, Hawaii is a safe Democratic state. California is a safe Democratic state. Illinois, I think, is probably going to be safe as well. New York, I think, probably stays by a safe margin. Rhode Island probably goes by a safe margin as well, and that's pretty much it for the Democrats. They actually only have 4 races that I'm categorizing as safe for them. Connecticut has had close races in the past. New York maybe gets, under 10 percentage points, and if Kathy Hochul's unpopular, Republicans have a really good year. Illinois has had close races in the past. I don't think it'll dip below 10 percentage points this time, however. Massachusetts, I'm also going to put as a safe margin as well. Republicans are not running Charlie Baker this time around. It's going to be a very different story. They're running very different candidates. Currently, Maura Healey is ahead by 25 percentage points, so she'll win by a safe margin. But overall, we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 races for the Democrats that I am saying will go by a safe margin for the Democrats. Now, getting into these likely margin states, I'll start off with the state of Florida. Ron DeSantis, has been quite popular. He's got a huge amount of fundraising, and he should be able to win by a very comfortable margin in a state that has been more friendly for Republicans in recent years. Iowa, I'm putting as a likely Republican margin. Kim Reynolds is a pretty decent candidate here in a state that has shifted more to the right. I would not be surprised if she wins by a safe margin. I'm actually considering moving it to a safe margin. If we look at the race right now, we can see Reynolds here is ahead by a pretty decent amount, but Seltzer does have it at about 8 points, so again, I'm going to err on the side of caution, which maybe I should do for Texas, but, I'll leave that as safe, and I'll put Iowa at likely. But again, these could both flip around. They could both be safe. They could both be likely. One could be safe. We'll see what happens. But I actually don't think there's any more likely Republican states, so we can get into some of these likely Democratic states. I think Colorado is going to be likely for the Democrats. Jared Polis has been a pretty decent candidate in terms of COVID and that kind of stuff. He has positioned himself pretty well. We only have polls from this internal polling group. It does have him ahead by a lot. I do think it will be closer than that, but I do think that Jared Polis is in a pretty solid position and he will win comfortably, not like a lot of other Democrats, however. I do think Maryland will go by a likely margin, and I'm saying this just because we have some uncertainty about who's actually, running. And if we look at this, we can see it looks like it'll be Peter Franchot, who actually probably would win by a pretty solid margin. But just because there is some uncertainty in this race, we've had Larry Hogan in the past. I am putting it at likely, but I am certainly prepared to move that to safe if things do change. We have a lot of endorsements for Peter Franchot and for a lot of these other candidates too, so we will see what happens here. But right now I am putting that race as likely to the Democrats. Now, getting into some of these other states, I think Connecticut is going to be a likely margin state for the Democrats as well. Connecticut has had close races in the past. I do think Ned Lamont is stronger than some people think. I do think he is going to win right now. He's ahead in a lot of these polls, but I do think it will be a likely margin. But again, at the end of the day, I do think that he does win. I'm also going to put Kansas actually as a likely Republican state. It's, easy to forget a lot of these races. I'm actually forgetting New Hampshire as well. I can't believe I forgot that. I'm sure some people may have already commented that, but, it's very difficult to remember, all of this stuff at once. But New Hampshire is going to be a Republican state. I do think Kansas will be a likely Republican state. For Kansas, we've got Laura Kelly versus Derek Schmidt. I wouldn't actually be surprised if this race goes, even more to the Republicans, but currently it does have it a little bit closer. We've only had one poll in 2022. It was in April where it did show Derek Schmidt winning by 4 percentage points, but I think that at the end of the day, Derek Schmidt probably does end up winning by a pretty substantial margin. As of right now, I'm putting it at likely Republican, and that's probably it for the likely margin states. If I come across another one that I forgot, I will certainly address it, like I came across New Hampshire not being safe for the Republicans, as it will obviously be Chris Sununu is going to win by a very large margin. But getting into some of these lean margin states, I think first Georgia is going to be a lean margin state. Brian Kemp is going to win easily against Stacey Abrams. I don't think Stacey Abrams has much of a chance. She had her chance in 2018. She couldn't do it. She helped Biden win in 2020. She helped the two Democrats win for the Senate. But she's not the same candidate as she was in 2022. Is not the same year as 2020 or 2018. So at the end of the day, I do think that she does lose by a lean margin. I think Arizona is also going to be a lean margin state for the Republicans. We do have probably Kari Lake for the Republicans. It looks like she's opened quite a big lead. She's going to win the primary versus Katie Hobbs for the Democrats, who, neither of them are the best candidates ever. But when it comes to a general election, I do think that Kari Lake will end up winning by a lean margin. A lot of that has to do with the national environment, which does have less of an effect on some of these state races. But overall, I think that it will lead to Kari Lake winning by a lean margin. I also think Wisconsin is going to go by a lean margin towards the Republicans. I don't think that Tony Evers has much of a chance. I think that this is a state that Biden barely won. Republicans are going to have the former lieutenant governor running most likely for them, unless maybe Tim Michels pulls it off. But it does look like Rebecca Kleefisch will be the candidate unless something changes. In the general election, we don't have many polls. Of course, they show Tony Evers with a slight lead, but we know how polls in Wisconsin are. They certainly cannot be trusted. But overall, I do think that Tony Evers probably does lose by a lean margin here. I'm also going to say that Nevada is a lean Republican state. Republicans have done pretty well in terms of Nevada. The state party for the Democrats is not in the best position. Steve Sisolak's not that popular. Joe Lombardo is a pretty good candidate for the Republicans. I think assuming he wins a primary, which it looks like he will, he's going to be a pretty formidable general election candidate. Now, we only have a few polls against Joe Lombardo. One of them from OH Predictive Insights does show Sisolak winning, but I really would not trust this poll. Suffolk is a better pollster, and while it does have a lot of undecideds, it does show Lombardo in the lead. He is from Clark County, so I think that will certainly help him. He's from Summerlin, which, as you can see, is in Clark County here. So overall, I think Joe Lombardo does win when it's all said and done, probably by a lean margin here. Now, for these lean Democratic states, I do think Oregon is going to be a lean state for the Democratic Party. Now, Oregon is not a state that the Democrats should write off saying is safe because it's been close in the past. It was a likely margin in 2018 and 2022. You've got Tina Kotek, who I believe is the head of the Senate, or the Speaker of the House for the House of Representatives. You've got a pretty decent candidate for the Republicans who is the minority leader or the former minority leader, and then you've got a third-party candidate. In terms of polling, I don't really think we have any, but I do think it will show quite a close race, and I do think at the end of the day, while the Democrats do pull it out, it's not going to be easy for them. I'm also going to put Minnesota as a lean Democratic state. Now, this could be tilt, this could be Republican flip, but as of now, I am saying that Tim Walz will win. I think Minnesota is, of course, bluer than some of these other Rust Belt states, like Wisconsin and Michigan, and so I do think that is going to help Tim Walz. So at the end of the day, I do think that he does narrowly win. I think he probably wins by around 2 to 3 percentage points as of now, but of course, this can change. I'm going to put getting into some of these tilt states, I'm going to put Michigan as a tilt Democratic state. The state party in Michigan here has really just been a mess for the Republicans, and while Gretchen Whitmer isn't the best candidate, and this isn't going to be the best year for the Democrats, there is going to be less influence from these national politics on these state races, and like I said in Arizona, it's still going to have an impact, and that's why Whitmer isn't going to win by more. We do have James Craig winning currently. Now, a lot of these ratings, nobody has it going for the Republicans. Some have it as toss-up, some have it as lean D. I'm putting it as tilt D. I think that these polls, which are showing a close race, at least some of them are. I think that's what they should be showing. A lot of them do show Whitmer winning, and as of now, I do think Whitmer does win by a very narrow margin, but it will be a margin of that is a victory nonetheless. But of course, this could change. I would not be surprised at all if she does lose. Pennsylvania, I'm also putting as a tilt state for the Democrats. Of course, you've got Josh Shapiro running against Doug Mastriano, who is really the worst candidate the Republicans could have nominated, and it's really not a good situation for them in the state of Pennsylvania. Now, I'm not writing it off completely. Doug Mastriano could still win this race. I need to emphasize that because a lot of these groups do show it as lean Democrat, some show it as tilt Democrat. I'm putting it as tilt Democrat, but Doug Mastriano could still certainly win this race. People cannot write it off as safe for the Democrats, but because of Mastriano's weakness as a candidate and Josh Shapiro being, being a decent candidate, I do think that as of now, I'm putting it as a tilt Democratic state. Now, this may be a surprise to many, but I'm actually putting New Mexico as a tilt Republican state. You've got the current incumbent governor, Michelle Lujan Grisham, who is going to be the Democratic candidate. It's probably going to be Mark Ronchetti for the Republicans. He made this race 5% for a Senate race in 2020. It was about 5 points ahead of Biden, and that was for a federal race, a Senate race. This is a state race, meaning, you're going to have Biden's unpopularity pushing Michelle Lujan Grisham down, but you're also going to have the fact that she's unpopular as a candidate in general. And so, this could be certainly a hot take, but I actually do think that Mark Ronchetti, as of now, does win by a tilt margin. I could put this at tilt Democrat. I could put this at tilt Republican. The point I'm trying to make is that this is going to be a very close race. This could be the sleeper flip of 2022, and it would be very, very interesting to see. And the final race we've got here is the state of Maine, where you've got the current incumbent governor, Janet Mills, going against Paul LePage, the former governor. Now, I'm going to put this race as tilt towards the Democrats, but like New Mexico, this is certainly a race that could go either way. It's going to be a very close race. I wouldn't necessarily consider it a sleeper flip, but it is certainly a race that many wouldn't necessarily expect to flip. But right now, I'm putting it as still Democrat, but it is going to be a very close race. So right now, I've got the Republicans flipping New Mexico, flipping Nevada, flipping Wisconsin, flipping Kansas. So that is 4 flips for them. And the Democrats would retain Pennsylvania narrowly, retain Michigan narrowly, retain Maine narrowly, retain Minnesota and Oregon narrowly. So they could be in a worse situation than this. They could be down to 15 governorships, or maybe even worse if a lot of things go bad for them. But as of now, I think Democrats probably end up with about 20 governorships. Republicans end up with 30, flipping 4 of these seats. Which ones do you agree with? Which ones do you disagree with? I certainly see a lot of room for disagreement. These are more unsure. I'm unsure about more of these races than I am in the Senate. But again, things can change. We'll see what happens by November, and I look forward to continuing to update these predictions in the coming months. So thank you all for watching this video. Please like this video and subscribe to the channel. Also follow me on Twitter and join the Discord. Those are both linked down in the description. But again, guys, thank you all for watching this video, and I will see you guys later.